Hi, today I'm with Dr. Lizette Avalos-Morales. We're at Seward County Community College and we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. How are you today, Dr. Avalos?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm having a great day so far. I just came back from taking Halo on a trip. That was the K-State Encuentro, and it is during Hispanic Heritage Month, and so that was a lot of fun, and I'm doing good so far. How are you?
Awesome. Very good. Awesome. Okay, so you are the communications instructors over there, and we'll talk a little bit about Halo over there, but why don't you talk a little about yourself and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Like you said, I am Dr. Lizette Avalos-Morales. I am an instructor here on campus, so I teach several different classes. I teach public speaking, everyone's favorite subject, of course. But I do get to teach that in person Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And then I also do it online. So I do several different sections of online public speaking. With Seward's growth and just our student needs, we have grown a lot in our Saints Anywhere classes. And so I get to do that. And I also enjoy it just because it gives access to education to different students. I also teach interpersonal communication, which is a class about how to build relationships with others. And that class is very fun and interesting because we talk about things that are real. Sometimes college students have a hard time putting things into perspective. Like when am I ever going to use this? But in interpersonal, everything they learn in there, they get to apply right away to their lives. And so I really enjoy that class. And then I also teach a leadership class as well. And that one's a lot of fun too. It's different. It's an elective. And so it is just really rewarding. And again, another class that you can apply to anything in your day-to-day life.
Okay. All right. One of the big things about is that you have earned your doctorate, and I know that you're really proud of it, and actually you're focused on that. Tell a little bit about that story about how you decided to go and your education. We'll talk about your academic journey. Let's say.
Yeah. Well, I'm a liberal native. I was born and raised here in Liberal, Kansas. My parents are Mexican immigrants, and they always stressed the importance of education as I was growing up, but I don't think they had a context of what that was because neither of them really pursued education. So to them, it was really an honor to be a first generation high school graduate because my siblings didn't graduate high school either. They actually came here to Seward and got their GED afterwards. So even that was a really big accomplishment. And so when I said I wanted to continue because I'm someone that really just likes learning, I love learning in just different aspects. And so when I told them I was going to pursue college, they were supportive and encouraging, but they didn't really know what that meant. And I didn't know what that meant as a first generation student. I remember being in high school and being very involved. I was a member of the Key Club, which is the high school version of Kiwanis, which now I'm a member of. And I remember through the things I did while I was in Key Club, I connected with professionals. I mean, with Kiwanis members, and they were all in their career, and they all encouraged college. So I had a lot of people that would encourage me to pursue college. I didn't know what that looked like or what that meant. So I actually, because I didn't really know, I came here to Seward County Community College, and I had taken advantage of dual credit classes, which is something great that Seward still offers, and I think they even have grown in how many classes they offer. So I graduated high school in 2012, and they did that back then, and now it's even more students benefit. So I came here to Seward, and I was here about a year just because I had so many credits with dual credit that I graduated within a year, and then I had to make a decision as to what was next. And as I was thinking about that, I had, one person, again, relationships I made that said, you should look into getting a degree in leadership. And I was like, oh, what's that? I didn't really know, right? And so I looked into it. Fort Hays was the only school that offered a leadership program. So I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This school's affordable. That sounds like a good program. So I'll just go for it. So I ended up transferring to Fort Hays. Again, Seward really set me up to succeed just because it was a seamless transfer. All my credits transferred. So I went straight into my major. And while I was at Fort Hays, I actually decided a double major. I first wanted to pursue communication, thinking it was like media, journalism. in my young mind, I thought, let me pick something practical, right, that I can do, and I saw myself doing that, and so that's what I picked. And then I got into the major, and that's not what the major was.
What
It
was
was
it?
it was very different. So it was really just studying the way people talk to each other.
So a lot of theory.
Yeah, a lot of theory, a lot
Right.
of research based. So having classes like one class like on listening or one class on conflict
Right.
resolution, versus in journalism and media you may be looking at like public relations or news reporting or
Right.
just different things. And so, but I actually ended up liking it. I didn't change my major.
Right.
I went ahead and got both of my bachelor's degrees.
Okay.
And again, in my young mind, even though I was successful academically, I didn't know there was levels of education even then.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I was getting ready to graduate. I was involved. I did a lot of things, had a wonderful undergrad experience. And one of my professors reached out and said, hey, you should think about grad school. And I was like, oh, like, what's that? Right? And I had been within education. And again, being successful as a student academically, but I still didn't have a lot of knowledge of like
Right.
how higher ed worked.
Was that ever an issue with your parents? A lot of times, parents go, me, myself, and everyone over there, oh, you graduated, now it's time to go out and get
a job.
Get a job out over there. But I'm going to gather that they were really supportive still.
They were. I remember part of that was, it was challenging for me because I felt like I had to prove that my education like was going to lead to a job, right? Like, because that's the reason I went to school. So I think for me, I struggled with that a little bit, and I was like, should I go and like start working? But then also I like learning, and I'm getting this opportunity to get my education paid for.
Right.
And so I struggled with that a little bit. I was a part of a leadership program through the leadership department where they paired me with a mentor. And my mentor, actually, she now teaches at Fort Hays, and I stay in contact with her. But at the time, she was at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And that was the only person that I kind of knew, like, well, her job was to be my mentor. Like, she was assigned that role.
Right.
But I was like, this is someone that, like, she only knows what I share with her, right? So she doesn't know like my family. She's not like a friend. She's not at the school trying to recruit me.
She's the mentor and basically looking for professional leads, right? And and you don't think about that. And actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because like when you think of mentor, you think of, oh, she's my buddy, my pal. But actually, she actually has a actual focus or profession that is to move you on professionally.
Yeah. So I reached out to her, Dr. Noble, and I said, I don't know what to do next, but I had actually 2 offers for grad school that would both pay my education there at Fort Hays. And, I spoke with her, and she said, it's really up to you, but it seems like it's a great opportunity, and not every student gets their graduate degree paid for. So, it is a big deal. And so we talked about it, and I got more comfortable with the idea of it. So I spoke to my parents, and I think when I told them, it's another degree and it's going to be paid for, and it'll, and I like learning, and it'll help me out just in my career. And they were okay with it. I also graduated from Fort Hays early, so I was only there like for undergrad 3 years. And so it wasn't like 2 more was going to be, just a very long time. So they were okay with it.
Okay. So next step.
Yeah.
Master's, and keep on going.
Yeah, so I did my master's, and my only intention was a master's. Again, I didn't, at that point, I knew that there was a doctorate next. Cause,
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry. Your doctorate is next, right? Okay.
But I didn't really like think about pursuing it. It wasn't a goal of mine. I came back home after graduating with my master's and started working here at Seward County Community College.
You're in the TRIO department, actually.
Yeah.
Which sort of goes in, right?
Yeah, and so I worked for TRIO. I was their program coordinator. I really enjoyed it. I love TRIO. It's such a phenomenal program for students, especially first generation students. And one of my supervisor at the time, she's no longer here, but Alex Widener, she was gonna pursue a doctorate, and she was like, you should do it too. And I was like, well, let me look into it, and so we kind of talked about it, and I decided to just go for it. I had knowledge of research because communication studies is very research based, and I had done research, and I had actually gotten to publish research like in a book, and so I had some knowledge of research in that process. So I felt very prepared to go and do it at that doctoral level, but it also was still intimidating just because a doctorate degree is just it's a lot more, a lot more
And your
work.
doctorate degree was in leadership rather than communication, correct?
Yeah, so I kind of alternated. So I got a bachelor's both in leadership and communication,
Right.
my master's in communication, and then I went back to leadership for my doctorate degree.
Okay.
And I really loved it. I enjoyed learning. My research was because I was with TRIO still, and I worked with first generation students, also students who were Latino, and so my research is actually based off of the advising experience of students who are Latino or Hispanic and who are first generation.
And you're very proud of that as you get the degree. I mean, that's something that I think that, as I know you, very, very important to you, and also important to sort of focus on the Latino community and let them know that you can get a doctorate.
Yeah.
You can go over there. It is important. You know, you should not give up on your dreams or go on if it's right for you, obviously.
Yeah, one thing I always share with my students is when I was first exploring majors, I had considered psychology. And the reason I didn't do it was because I was like, I'll be in school forever, right? And so I always joke with them that I'm like, well, I ended up doing that anyway, right? And so I always, tell students, pursue your passions, pursue what you love. And you just gain so much perspective from formal education. And like I said, I love learning, but I also take a lot of pride in having a doctorate degree because I always tell my students there's less than 1% of Latinas in the U.S. with a doctoral degree. And it is such a big deal because myself, in my experience, in my education, I never had a Latina professor. I never met another Latina with a doctorate degree until I was a student pursuing one, and then I met others, but it's still, the statistic is very low. And so I hope that they're empowered by that and that they know that it is something that you can pursue.
Do you feel that you need to do this for the first generation, for the Latinas over there, that you have an obligation to sort of let them know that you can do this? Like you said, well, why don't you? I did it. Why don't you?
I think, one thing with advising and my background in advising, I know that like everyone's life circumstance is different. One thing I do recognize is I had a lot of privileged experience. I didn't have to pay for school. I was eligible for FAFSA because I was considered low income, and so my school was paid for through FAFSA, but also I got scholarships and a lot of things. And so to me, it was I never struggled to, I guess, prepare for college. There was things I didn't know in navigating college, but I applied for every scholarship. I was lucky enough to get funding. I worked as a student, but I didn't necessarily have to because I did have those scholarships. And so my experience was very different to some students. I know today we have students that they work full time, they go to school online, they have family or children, and those weren't necessarily my challenges. And so, I just try to encourage students that you can do it, and whatever your goals are and what your aspirations are.
And you're just encouraging sort of a role model, aren't you?
I hope so.
Now, one thing actually, again, that was supposed to TRIO, Halo, Hispanic, just very, very in your life. So talk a little bit about that and how important those groups are to you. TRIO, first generation, Halo is Hispanic American Leadership Organization, which sort of makes this perfect for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and how much fun it is for you to sort of be part of that.
Yeah. So I did, like I said, I worked here at Seward for the TRIO program, and then I went off to Garden while I was working on my doctoral degree and worked for TRIO there, and I was there for about 4.5 years. And I love TRIO. TRIO is like a federally funded program, so they're everywhere all over the U.S., and there's a lot of different TRIO programs. So I specifically worked for Student Support Services, where their goal is to help students graduate from the community college and transfer to a university. And what I love about TRIO is that they offer all of the resources students need to get there. So you have your academic advisor that works with you to guide you. And I loved working in that role. I really enjoyed getting to see students, from young freshmen to helping them get, all of their academic plan and everything ready, and then seeing them transfer. And then even since when I was a part of TRIO, since a lot of what we do there is take students on college visits, so I would always reconnect with students that I previously worked with, and just see how they're doing. And it's always so rewarding to see like how much growth they experience when they transfer. So I think TRIO is a wonderful program. I do not do TRIO here at Seward anymore, but we do have a TRIO program, and I think that the staff there's wonderful, and they really help students, you know, with preparing for their next goal, that next step.
Right, and a lot of times you can just sort of interrelate to like if you come from Halo to Trio, and I'm sure some of your students are in both.
Yeah, I definitely have students that take advantage of being both in Trio and Halo. I think sometimes people get the two confused. But yeah, Trio is federally funded, and so you do have to be eligible, you have to apply. But then Halo is a student club, and so I am also a Halo sponsor.
Talk about that a little bit.
So Halo is a Hispanic American leadership organization. It is a student club open to any students. You do not have to be Hispanic to join, but we do a lot of celebrating the Hispanic culture and heritage. And then we also practice a lot of things in regards to leadership. And so some of the things that we do is we get to travel for leadership opportunities, so such as going to a conference. So we just went to the Encuentro. We were there 2 days, and we actually had a keynote speaker here that was from Liberal and a Seward alum, and so it was awesome to see somebody else, another Latina, sharing her story there with the students. Her name was Patricia. I think Rodriguez was the last name. I could probably get that information to you. But she shared her story very similar to mine and to a lot of the students that were there. Her parents worked at the meatpacking plant, and you know, she was there to empower them. And now she is a vice president for like Bank of America in North Carolina. And so it was great to see another Seward alum, you know, that's Latina thriving, and being a role model for our students. So that was really a lot of fun. They also got some sessions and some. They picked different ones, so they learned different things. But there was some on like financial literacy, on leadership, on the other Halo clubs sharing what they do. And so I think the students had a lot of fun on the trip, but we get to do more in the spring as well. So we go to Fort Hays, and they put on a conference for us. We go to Nebraska, and we go to an event in OPSU. And so that's just a few of the things that we get to do to develop their own leadership. We do a lot of community service. We often have people reach out because we are a very large active club. People will reach out for help with different things. So some of the things that we do is help with like Pancake Day, and then some of the cultural things we do. We're going to be having a speaker come in for Hispanic Heritage Month, and so we're going to have that next week. And so they're working on coordinating that event. We'll also be celebrating Day of the Dead soon, Dia de los Muertos, and we're going to be giving information about what that holiday is for some of our students of Mexican heritage.
And a lot of community service too, like you just sort of said, it's just that it's not just here, it's out, bring out there, and that's what leadership is about, isn't it? Because these are our future leaders, right? And they're so hopefully they'll be in our community as well. It's
about leadership is also about civic engagement and being involved. And one of the other things they've been doing here recently that they'll also do next week is registering people to vote. And so that's another thing that they've been working on. They've been very busy this semester, so I think we have like almost an event every day next week. So it is a very busy time for the Halo Club, but it's great to see students involved in doing all of those things.
Yeah, awesome. I was going through so much, but I just wanted to show one thing out of it. I think it's really important. So you're actually born here in the States, right? And yet you're embraced. I mean, it's really sometimes kind of difficult, as I always talk about myself. You know, some of you're born here in the States and you become Americanized. And you sort of kind of, you know, to a certain extent, sometimes try to get away from your culture. You haven't. You really embraced it at all. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think part of that, when I was younger, I didn't think about it as much. But I did study communication, and you know, I took classes on, you know, when we're studying identity and all of these things extensively. And I think, you know, my heritage is something that I'm really proud of. And it is, when you look at, you know, things like what I teach in interpersonal, like it impacts our relationships, our culture, and it impacts things like the workplace dynamics and so many different things. And so I don't think that I thought about, you know, being authentic as someone of Mexican heritage or like what that looked like. But as I got older, I started to value certain things more.
Absolutely, right. We don't realize it until we actually get it or see it around us out over there. One of the things is that I probably say that it doesn't necessarily identify you, but it's part of you, and
Yeah.
always be part of you.
Yeah, and it's something I'm really proud of. I love visiting Mexico. I love, even though I didn't grow up there or necessarily go through like their school systems, I love that I'm bilingual and I can speak Spanish. I love visiting. You know, Mexico is also very diverse. Like every state kind of has their own dishes and traditions and things, and I just love getting to travel. And I think this year I've been to Mexico the most that I've been in my life, just with teaching and having the summer off. I mean, I went like maybe like 5 times this summer, and in different areas, and I just love it, and I love the people there. And you know, I think now that I'm older, I appreciate my culture a lot more. But I'm just really grateful that I get to speak the language and communicate when I do go. And also I try to, you know, hopefully students see that as well. Again, because we don't see a lot of Latina representation in higher education, you know, hopefully they're able to see that you can be authentically yourself, and be proud of your culture in any role and in any profession.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Avalos. I really appreciate your time. This is a great interview. You shared so much with us, and I think that you're the embodiment of what this should be.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.